In his corner, Roberto Duran.
What terrible past had produced this furious machine of destruction?
Trainer, Ray Arcel.
If you walked into the ring or met him in a dark alley, would you be afraid? Mm-hmm. So would I.
Boxing historian, Bert Sugar.
The Americans did not invent the word machismo. It ain't our word. They didn't invent mano a mano. It ain't our word. And when somebody comes out of Latin America who embodies these, you know how big a hero he is going to be. It's Roberto Duran.
Trainer, Nestor Quinones.
People think of him as a mayor, like he's in public office. Once, when I was at his house, there were lines of people asking him for favors, and he was helping everyone. He told me that week alone, he had given away $10,000. He never asked anyone how they would use it. Roberto loves poor people, and being able to help them motivated him, because he suffered a lot when he was young. When he made money, he gave it to those who needed it.
Born 1951, Duran was raised in squalor in a Panama City barrio. Home, one room, resembled a tiny open-ended storefront. It was hardly large enough for the 8 Duran children, so Roberto often slept in the streets and found his meals in garbage cans. He became a petty criminal, but was also engaging, a pleasing character out of a Dickens novel. Duran's manager, Carlos Oleta.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Mano de Piedra Duran.
I met him when he was 12 years old. I was in my garden, and he entered into my house to steal some coconuts. So I grabbed him, and I told, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well, I want some coconut here." And he was so funny and so gracious. Then I invited him to eat with me that day. 3 or 4 years passed, and I went to Colón to see a fight. And in one of the preliminaries, I saw him, and I said, "This is the same fellow that I saw in my house." And he won that fight with courage, with his heart.
Writers noted his ring presence, the nostrils which flared like a wolf's, the eyes that chilled you with their coldness. This figure of unmitigated violence was a legend by his early 20s.
We went to the interior of the Republic, and he saw a small horse, and he told me, "I can knock out that horse." And he did. And he almost broke his hand. That's how hard he hits.
Writer, broadcaster, Alfonso Castillo.
I was broadcasting a fight in Panama City, and it was the 4th or 5th fight of Roberto Duran's career. And I said, this young man has hands of stone, because whoever he hits falls down. I used that same expression, manos de piedra, in my column and on TV. And then this phrase was like the wind. It was everywhere.
Without peer in Latin America, Duran brought his hands of stone to New York in 1971, his first trip to the United States. Confidant Luis Enriquez.
We left him at the hotel in front of the garden, and when we came back, Duran wasn't in the room. 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, no Duran. Well, around 4:30, 4:45, Duran came up the room. We were all excited. Where were you? He said, I was across the street, looking at the girls. And then Mr. Oleta said to him, you must be crazy. You know, you're fighting in the greatest building ever been made about boxing. And you're fighting a tough guy. He said, Carlos, stop worrying. When the first bell rings, I'm gonna fight him, knock him out, and after that, I want some ice cream and some steak. And that's exactly what happened.
1972, he was back in New York to fight lightweight champion Ken Buchanan.
You mean you were looking for a knockout?
Yeah.
Buchanan went down after the bell. The fight has been stopped, and the winner, and new lightweight
Panama's
champion-
international sports star, Duran ran his record to an astonishing 82-1, propelled by a fury few ever possess. It was unleashed in 1980 against Sugar Ray Leonard, the welterweight champion.
Duran and I was in his home, and we were watching the news. Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Leonard, and all the money he was going to make. And I saw Duran's eyes, and Duran's physical expression changed to a mean. I would say mean enough to the point that you never saw it in the ring. And he said, I hate him. I'm going to beat the living S out of him. I said, don't hate him. He hasn't done anything to you. It's the system in America that is doing that. But we will defeat him, and in defeating him, we will defeat the system.
Oh, a right hand! He hurt Leonard! Oh, he hurt Leonard! He's got him going!
The look in his face changed, but inside did not change.
Is Leonard the best you ever fought?
Sí, sí.
Then, the rematch. It ended curiously, Duran saying, "No mas." Afterward, a diversion was created. Luis Enriquez.
I said, Duran, the fight is over, but what happened to you? He said, listen, nothing happened to me. But you know, you're smart, invent something. So I said, well, I saw you touching your stomach. He said, oh yeah, well, you know, I had a little pain, but he didn't do it. It's just that food that I ate. I said, well, you had cramps. Well, Howard Cosell was approaching me for the interview. So Cosell jumped at it right away, and I jumped with the answer right away. That was the cramps. But Duran didn't have any cramps. I can tell you that very honestly and sincerely, to you and to the world. He just quit, and that was it.
Promoter, Bob Arum.
Roberto Duran, after the No Mas fight, became a pariah. He was despised by most of his countrymen, but darn, when he beat Davey Moore to win the junior middleweight title, and he came back to Panama on that private plane that the president sent him. And that crowd at the airport greeted him, where there were more people than come out to watch the Pope. Amends were made, and Duran went back into the annals of Panamanians as their greatest hero.
His reputation restored. Now Duran's self-indulgence, astounding weight gains between bouts, has led to his demise. The partying makes headlines, but his unceasing charity, that does not make the news. Alfonso Castillo.
Esteban de Jesus was dying from AIDS, and Roberto went to the hospital in Puerto Rico to see him. He admired Esteban. They had fought 3 times, and de Jesus was the first boxer to defeat him. They became great friends. When he took Esteban in his arms, Duran was crying. Esteban died weeks later.
Luis Enriquez.
He spent like 75 hours buying food for about 10 kids that were begging money. And he was crying. You could see that he was related to his past. He really hated to detach himself from those kids. But as I drove, he kept looking back. For the longest period of time, he kept waving and looking back and saying goodbye to the kids. And when he turned his face to look towards the front of the car, I could see him still crying.
Bert Sugar.
It's a part of Roberto Duran nobody sees. He's a hellraiser, he's a butt kicker, and he's a caring person. Maybe this makes him all the more beloved to his Hispanic fans. It is the other side of machismo and why they love him more.